I'm attorney Barton Morris with the law office of Barton Morris. We do business services, corporate legal services, services to small businesses. And I think one of the really cool things that we get to do is help businesses succeed. I love it when small business entrepreneurs come to us for services and for our assistance. And one of the things that I'm really big on is business and strategic planning. I think that every small business, even large businesses really, but we deal with small business, and I think that every small business needs to have a business plan. I'm talking about startups, existing businesses, businesses that have been in operation for a long time or just getting started. A business plan is a good idea. Studies show that businesses with a documented, written, strategic business plan are 30% or more likely to succeed than a business without one. Now, there are many different types of business plans. There's many different reasons why a company would want a business plan. For instance, business plans are often created in order to generate capital or generate investment dollars. And that's a very legitimate reason, because who wants to loan somebody money if they don't have a plan for that money? There's other reasons as well. But the business planning that I'm specifically going to talk about and what I've written about is the business planning for the CEO, for the owner, to guide the owner in making the decisions necessary in order to ensure that they're going to be accomplishing their goals. This is for the CEO. And yes, this plan can be used for other purposes and perhaps would be great for other purposes, but it's not the typical 50-page business plan that I've certainly seen a lot of my clients have and use, that I've reviewed a number of times, and we do it for our cannabis licenses. Oftentimes we even help create these elaborate business plans. No, I'm talking about the planning that's necessary for the owner, for the small business entrepreneur, so that they can have a guide towards their success, an understanding of what success looks like. Sometimes without a business plan, they don't even know what success is because they haven't thought it out. Think of it as if the small business owner, entrepreneur is driving a car and they're taking a cross-country trip, yet they don't know exactly where they're going. If you don't have a destination set in place and make a plan for that destination, you're likely going to drive off course. It's highly likely somebody's going to drive off course. And in driving off course leads to inefficiency. It leads to a lower likelihood that you're going to reach the goal. And certainly it's almost like a certainty that you're not going to reach the goal with the efficiency and the speed at which that you would obviously like to do it. So business planning is necessary, and I'm going to try to get through the manner of which that I teach and I show people how to do it quickly in this video, but it's all illustrated in what I have there in writing accompanying this video. First of all, it is necessary for the entrepreneur to find out what they want from their business. The business is not designed to work for itself. The owner is not working for the business. The business has to work for them. What that means is that a business plan has to really begin by saying, what is it that the owner wants? What is this business designed to deliver to the owner? And that owner, of course, could be one person. It could be multiple people. It could be a partnership. It could be shareholders. It could be the ownership. It could be a lot of different things, a lot of different combinations. But ultimately, an owner is an owner. A company's ownership has to decide, what is this business designed to do? And it's not just designed to make money. That's not the only reason. One of my business objectives is to provide a solid place of employment for my team members, right? Like, that is an objective of ours. But also an objective of ours is to generate a certain amount of profit. Not just as much as possible, but we have to have a plan for a certain amount. And that generally begins with the owner thinking about what do they really want, do they really need in life. They have to think about that and not just think about it like in an abstract. I think the more detail, the better. What type of retirement planning is necessary? What type of income is necessary to take care of your family? What type of income is necessary to have the things that you want to have in life? It's different for everybody, right? Like, this is not like, I just want $1 million. No, like, everybody's different. Some people want multi-million dollars. Some people are happy with $500,000. Depends on your jurisdiction, depends on your circumstances, your family, a zillion different things. What matters most is that the time that is necessary to understand and the work that's necessary to understand what the owner wants from this business is crucial, because it begins there. We can't really even begin to have a good plan without that. Some people might say, well, okay, I'm the owner of the business. I want $5 million. I want $5 million a year for my business, which may seem impossible, but anything's possible, right? So, like, it does have to be reasonable, but anything is possible. So if you want $5 million from your business, then you're going to really have to understand a lot of these questions that we're going to go about answering right now, which is, well, how many sales is that going to require? What's your price per sale? And what's the market willing to bear? Meaning that if you're in a market that is not able to make $5 million, maybe you got to expand your market. So these are things that we will talk about. But of course, things have to be reasonable, they have to fit within the plan, and they have to be realistic. All goals have to be SMART goals. They have to be strategic. They have to be well timed. They have to be realistic. They have to have a time period in which that they have to be executed. They have to be smart. So let's say, for instance, that we have a business owner that wants to make $750,000. They need $750,000 in total owner benefit. So that could include, of course, their salary. It includes their draws. It includes the expenses that their business is going to undertake, their personal expenses that the business is going to undertake. But the total amount is $750,000. Well, the next thing that's necessary is that we have to understand what is that business's projected profit percentage. Because if there is a $750,000 profit or total owner benefit that is going to be delivered to the owner or to the group of owners, well, and if you apply a profit percentage to that, then we know what the total revenue is going to be. And so if we, let's say, have a 25% profit, so $750,000 is 25% of the total profit. I'm going to need a calculator for this as is going to be necessary. $750,000 divided by 0.25 equals $3 million. So $3 million in revenue for this particular example is going to be necessary annually in order to realize $750,000 in profit at a 25% profit margin. Of course, that profit margin can be completely different for different industries, for different businesses, and it is something that has to be, in this case, estimated. Now, there's likely historical records that may exist that can be used in order to identify what the profit could be. And of course, maybe that's part of the strategic planning, is that you want the profit to be at 25%. Maybe last year it was at 20%, and this year you want it to be at 25%. And later on, we'll get into the strategy and the strategic planning necessary to make that profit margin higher in order to establish your goals. But this is what we do. This is the reason why we do this. We create goals and then strategies in order to achieve them. And in this particular case, I'm talking about a $3 million revenue company having a 25% profit margin, creating a $750,000 total owner benefit for that owner who has detailed exactly why they need that. And of course, we can do this for 3 years, 5 years, which we'll get to in a second. So we have a 25% profit margin, and then what does that leave? That leaves 75% in operating expenses. or expenses necessary in order to be able to operate the business, or it could even be a number less than that. Perhaps there's some money that's set aside for cash reserves, but one way or the other, we're looking at then $2.25 million in expenses and operating expenses. Well, you're going to have to go about then understanding where is that money going to go? And certainly we can do this in a very detailed manner, or we can do it in a more broad manner. So for instance, as a broad manner, labor generally costs are about 35% of a particular business. And so if we're looking at 2.25 million and then times 40%, labor could be $900,000 for that year. And then we can go about looking at the other major expenses. There's usually going to be a labor expense. There's going to be an overhead expense, like what's the cost of the place in which that you're operating. Maybe that's low, maybe that's high. It could be an online business. It could be a brick and mortar business. But overhead is always going to be an expense. Labor is going to be an expense. There's of course other insurance expenses, which can go into overhead. Then there's the cost of goods sold. It doesn't matter whether you have a retail business or a service-based business. There's always a cost of goods sold. In a service-based business, that cost is going to be the time that is necessary for your team to put into delivering services to the client, right? In a retail business, it's the cost of purchasing or acquiring the goods that you're going to sell to the consumers or to your vendors or to your customers. So no matter what, every business is different, but there's always going to be a breakdown of operational expenses, and that has to be, you have to put that in your business plan, because again, when we put it down on paper, then we can actually do something about it. Perhaps your labor expenses is too high. Maybe your overhead expense is too high. Maybe something is too low. Things can be adjusted, but estimating these expenses and doing so in a manner that is as accurate as possible for a particular plan, and every plan is going to be different, and the reasons for them are going to be different, that needs to go in the plan. Next, most important thing is going to be sales. Right? So because we already said that we need $3 million in revenue. Okay. Well, there's somebody that's making those sales, right? Like somebody is doing that, whether that's the owner, whether that's a sales team, whether that's the makeup of the retail floor. Sales is a part of every business. It may take up different roles, or maybe look like different things, but sales isn't generally is going to be a part of every business. And so what we want to do here is think about how much is each sale going to be. And of course, many different businesses sell many different things and different, what I would call SKUs, sales keeping units. And like a retail store may have 50 different SKUs for 50 different products with 50 different prices. But there's always going to be one average price. And that can be used, or there can be, maybe we look at the top 10 things which make up 80% of what the company may sell as either a service or a product. It can be done in a number of different ways, and it's different between or different depending upon what type of business that you have. But ultimately, it's going to come down to at least 80% of that sales should be able to identify what that average cost per sale is. So let's say in my example, there's $3 million in sales, and there's the average cost for each sale is $10,000. Well, that means I need 300 sales over across the year. That may be seasonal. Maybe like there's more sales that happen during the Christmas time holiday and less sales that happen perhaps during the second quarter, or it may be equal across quarters. So at 300 sales divided by 4, that's 75 a quarter. We need to sell 75 of whatever I'm selling every single quarter. Every quarter is made up of 3 months, and so that means 25 every single month. Well, then the next question is, how am I going to sell 25 every single month? Maybe the company is used to selling 15, and maybe now we're going to have to increase that number to 25. but 25 an average every single month, 75 a quarter, 300 a year at 10,000 each is $3 million. And so the next question is how is sales going to get that number of sales, that number of revenue? And the answer is, well, how many leads are they getting? How many opportunities is sales getting in order to sell 25 a month or 75 a quarter? Well, the next question really should be then, how many opportunities or qualified leads are being delivered? Because there's a difference between a lead and a qualified lead. And what we're getting into now is marketing. Marketing, again, can be different for every company, and it can be different. There are different types of marketing. Some companies don't do traditional marketing at all. Perhaps their entire business model is by word of mouth, by referrals. Other companies, they rely heavily on marketing. Every company is different, but every company is going to engage in some type of marketing, right? And so the question then, because that there's going to be some type of market, there's some way that business is coming in through the door, no matter what. And then we can talk about how many of those leads that are coming into the door, how many of them become sales. I could be wrong, but my guess is that most companies don't close every lead that comes in. Some may, right? It depends on their competitive environment. It depends on a lot of different things. But my guess is most companies, not my guess, my experience shows most companies are in a competitive landscape and in a competitive environment, and they don't close every lead that comes in. And therefore, you have to have a good understanding of how many leads are actually qualified and what's the conversion rate. So what I mean by that is, and this will go in the plan. If I need 75 sales a month, but my sales team really needs about 150 leads to try to sell, they only close about half of them. Well, that means that that's a conversion rate of 50%. The conversion rate could be 75%, it could be 25%, it could be 50%. It depends on your industry. That might be something that is one of your strategies in order to be able to reach your goals, is to increase that conversion rate from 25 to 50%. But again, this is why we write it down. And so in this example, we have a conversion rate of 50%, and we have therefore we have this goal of 75 sales per quarter. That means we need 75 times 2, 150 leads per quarter. And the marketing plan portion of the business plan will identify how those leads are going to come in, those qualified leads. In fact, the business plan may want to talk about that. The fact is that all the leads that come in from marketing aren't all qualified. Now, the marketing department needs 150 qualified leads. They may have a 75% qualified lead conversion rate. And so in order to get 150 qualified leads, they may need 175 leads total, or let's say 200 leads total, right? So that would be 75%, I think. So 200 leads total actually equals 150 qualified leads that need to be delivered to the sales department so they can close half of them, which is 75 per quarter, which would get them at $10,000 each, would get them to their $3 million goal for their $750,000 total owner benefit for the owner. So marketing has their role, and marketing has their job, and it's clearly set out. You give that to your marketing department and say, look, we have a business plan here, and in order to achieve the company's goals, the marketing department has to perform. This is what marketing's got to do. This is what sales got to do. And again, we will get into the strategy behind it as well. But first, we're gonna put down in our business plan that marketing has to do this, sales has to do this in order to be able to achieve the goals of the company and, of course, the goals of the owner. But that's not all. Of course, there has to be then an understanding of the staffing, because almost every company that I'm familiar with, every company that we've helped, is always going to have, even in online businesses, there's going to be people that are going to be necessary in order to work, in order to be able to achieve the business goals. And in some cases, obviously, a lot of people are going to be necessary. And so staffing becomes an important consideration that has to be in the business plan as well. How much staff is necessary in order to be able to take care of not only the marketing and the sales, but actually the production, whether it's even retail or a service-based business. There's going to be some people, some employees that are necessary in order to be able to create the output or the sales necessary in order to be able to reach the goals. And of course, again, every business is going to be different, but the business should be able to identify the people necessary to be able to achieve that goal. I know, for instance, as a law firm, I know that my lawyers can only have so much time, right? We have a service-based business, and therefore I know that one lawyer, if they're billing at 120 hours a month at $350 an hour, I know that the most I can make from that lawyer is about $500,000, and that's if they're totally perfect on everything. I know that usually they're about 80% of perfect, and so they're going to be generally more about $400,000 a year. But that's it. So if I want to make $3 million, I can't do it with one lawyer. I can't do it with two lawyers. I probably need a minimum of 4 lawyers or even 5, depending upon the circumstances. And so it's necessary for me to know that, because if I'm trying to make a number like $3 million, but I know that my lawyers can only make so much, generate so much, or my paralegals can only generate so much, that tells me an understanding of my staffing necessities, my staffing requirements. Every business should be able to do that. No matter what you do, you're going to have a staffing plan. And that staffing plan may change. Every quarter, I have a staffing plan that changes every quarter, because every quarter we have different goals, and the staffing necessary can change per quarter or per year. And so a staffing plan is a good thing to have within the business plan. And then there's the strategic planning. Again, there's all of these different goals that we have, and that's great, but without a strategy to achieve these goals, sometimes they're not even realistic, meaning that you're not going to be able to do it unless you have a strategy and you employ a strategy. Having a strategy and executing a strategy are two different things. And so not only having the strategy, a well thought out strategy, but then deploying it. So let me give you an example. In our example of wanting $3 million in revenue and $10,000 each, maybe last year I was, the business owner, the entrepreneur, was only making $8,000 a sale instead of $10,000 a sale. Well, the strategy for this year or for the next quarter or for the next 3 or 4 quarters would be to increase it from 8,000 to 10,000. Well, how are we going to do that? Depends on the business, but I could imagine that the salespeople perhaps need to be trained on increasing the value that's delivered at the sale position, or perhaps the people in production, they need to actually produce more for the sale to make it from an $8,000 value to a $10,000 value. Whatever the case is, there's going to be a strategy in order to achieve the results that you wish to accomplish that is going to get you to where you need to be. That has to be in the plan. That has to be in the business plan, because the business plan is nothing without the strategy portion. How are we going to get there? What are the assumptions that are being created here in order for the business owner to achieve their results? There's going to be multiple different strategies. And oftentimes what I know is that a strategy can certainly be thought of and placed in a business plan, but there has to be then some action surrounding how that strategy is going to be achieved. So for instance, I think a great idea is to put it on a calendar. One of my strategies is I want to increase the number of leads that I'm getting from social media. And I have a social media strategy that I'm seeking to employ, where I think that I want a certain number of followers, let's say 6 months from now, That is my strategy that's going to allow me to increase the number of leads that I am going to be qualified leads that I'm going to be generating from the marketing department into the sales department in order for them to be able to increase their conversions in order to generate the number of sales. Well, I might say that as a key performance indicator, basically a metric that I think represents well the success of a particular goal or strategy, I'd say maybe the number of followers on my LinkedIn page. I want to be 1,000 followers by a certain date. Let's say by July 1st, I want 1,000 followers. Well, let's put that on a calendar, because then we can do a number of things. We can work backwards to ensure that we're working towards that goal, as opposed to just having in our plan, I want 1,000 followers. Well, if you identify a realistic date and then again work backwards towards achieving that goal, it's more likely going to happen, as opposed to just having a strategy and expecting it to happen. No, you have to plan for it to happen. You have to calendar it for it to happen. You have to have a strategy for it to happen. Perhaps you're gonna post more often, and perhaps even you can create benchmarks. So by like May 1st, maybe 3 months before, you're gonna have 500 followers by that point. Well, how are you gonna do that? That goes in the plan, and that goes in the calendar. And there could be a number of different, and there will be a number of different strategies that have to be employed in order to be able to grow the business to the goals that are projected and that are identified and desired in the business plan. But strategy and strategic planning is incredibly important to the plan. Another really important thing that I think is necessary for any business to do, unless they don't have competition, like for instance DTE, they don't have any competition seemingly, but most other companies do. And if you have competition, I think a SWOT analysis or a competitor analysis is necessary. How is it that anybody can operate in a competitive environment without knowing what your competitors are doing and without understanding what makes your service or product in the manner of which that you operate unique? It is necessary, right? Because if you are just creating a product and you're putting it out into the market and you don't know what your other competitors are doing, your competitors are likely, first of all, know what you're doing if you're any type of competitor. And secondly, they know the market so that they can do what's necessary in order to beat the market. You have to know what your competitors are doing in order to beat them. You have to know where are their weaknesses and what are their strengths. You have to know what your own weaknesses are and what your own strengths are. When you identify your own weaknesses, you should then be looking to strengthen them in order to overcome your competitors. But a competitor analysis is an analysis of yourself. What is your specific niche? What is your unique selling position, your USP? These are very, very, very important principles in order to be able to understand, to put in your plan, first of all, but also help you create the strategies necessary for you to be able to achieve the goals of your plan. What is your unique selling position? What is it that you do better than your competitors, and what do your competitors do better than you? That will identify things that you can do and should do in order to gain the market share that you need and that you want in order to get the goals and satisfy the goals of your company. If somebody takes the time, an owner takes the time to do these things, they are more likely to succeed. They are more likely to reach their goals. In fact, if you're not doing these things, I'm not even sure if you even have a succinct goal for which that you wish to succeed. Many people are successful just going about doing their job, right? And they don't have to, at least they don't feel as though that they have to write it down. My suggestion and my belief is that they're shorting themselves. They're shorting themselves because if maybe they're not reaching high enough. Maybe that's okay. That's fine for a lot of people. You know what? I'm not even suggesting that everybody has to have a plan. But if you want to reach a certain level of success, if you want to go for a lofty goal and achieve it, then I don't see how anybody can really do that without a plan, without understanding and breaking it down into those very basic parts, right? About what the owner wants, about the sales, about the marketing, about the production, about the overhead, about the profit model and the profit percentage, and about a strategy. These are things that are fundamental to business, and when they work together, it's a beautiful thing. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Business planning like this works, and I would love to help you do it. If you are looking for assistance from this law office, of course, you can go to bartonmorris.com, and we are here to help you. Thank you.